is Curtis Austin. Can you all hear me? All right, now you can. Okay. I am Curtis Austin, the Associate Director of the Humanities Institute at Arizona State University. And we are just really grateful and proud to be here. I want to say thanks to God, of course, but also the pastor and his whole congregation for having us here. Arizona State University appreciates an opportunity to engage with its community partners and constituents, and we realize that you didn't have to have us here, so thank you very much. So I want to do something really quickly, and I need your help. So can the church say amen? Amen. All right. I've been wanting to do that since I was 6. So there, I got it out of the way. It's 50 years I've been wanting to do that. I appreciate that. But we're here tonight for a very special occasion. We're going to hear some people who've come to us from North Carolina and from one of our own. But we chose this date, April 3rd, because it's so close to April 4th. And for those of you who are not as up on your history as some of the rest of us are, April 4th, 1968 was the day that Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, right? And we know that we have at least one person in our midst, and there are probably many more, who had something to do with the celebration of his legacy. And so we wanted to tie those dates together in time, but also with the people. And you'll see what I mean as the program unfolds. This movement that we're going to be learning about, and talking about, and singing about has a tremendous amount of relevance for today, right? You've been reading the news, you've been watching the news, you've been living your lives, and you see what is going on. And this is not that different from what was going on in the 50s and the 60s. And folks were intent on having their way, except there were people like you who decided it's not going to go like that, right? We're going to stand up and do something about the situation that we are faced with. And tonight you're going to find out the details about some of that. So without further ado, I'm going to get into my little notes here and just make the point that although we're in church, this is not just any regular church service. We're going to take a journey tonight through a story that is very powerful. I think it's powerful. It's painful. It's beautiful. But as I just mentioned, it is still unfolding. Like, the story has not yet ended. We're here to talk about the civil rights movement. The heart and soul of the civil rights movement was actually the Black church. And with that, it was gospel music in the Black church. So if you don't get anything else from us tonight, let's get this one thing straight. There would be no civil rights movement without the Black church. It just would not happen. Thank you. The church was literally the headquarters for the movement. It was literally the launch pad for the movement. Our safe place. We hear that phrase a lot these days, but it's been our safe place for a long time. This is where strategy met spirit and where truth met power. Preachers weren't just talking salvation, they were marching, they were leading, and sometimes they were even risking their lives. And of course, they were doing this in an effort to demand justice in Jesus' name, right? This is why they were doing that. And the music, of course, we cannot forget the music, and we'll hear from an extraordinarily gifted singer tonight. But the music was key to all of that. Of course, the word is obviously important, right? But the thing that sustained those people who were getting bitten by those dogs, who were being thrown in jail for no reason, and who, in many cases, were being beaten and, in extreme cases, killed because they wanted, justice and liberty for all to be something that was real. It was music that kept them going every day. You'd think, well, maybe they had a bunch of money. Maybe they were all carrying guns. or maybe something else, but it was actually just the gospel music that propelled people and the movement along as far as it did. It was more than just sound. This music represented our strength. The music represented our strategy. It was the heartbeat of a people on the move. And you've heard some of these songs like Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around. You probably heard that one. Take My Hand, Precious Lord, right? They're not just beautiful, these were battle cries, right? These were the things that people sang before they went out in the streets and did what they did. And so that harmony, that rhythm, that praise, it carried us through all those barking and biting dogs, through all those fire hoses, all those jails, and all that hatred. And at the same time, spirit, right? There was spirit. It's still with us. So the power of the Black church is still alive today. It hadn't gone anywhere. The soul of gospel music is still singing. And the fight for justice is still going on. It's still going on. So as we welcome our speakers today, I want you to listen, not just with your ears, but with your hearts. Because this isn't, as I mentioned, just history. It is testimony, and you're going to hear some good testimony tonight. This is the story of how faith fought fear, of how music moved mountains. And as I mentioned, we've still got a little bit more marching to do. Still got a little bit more to do. And I am blessed with the privilege to introduce our first speaker who showed us how to march. You know, some of our heroes aren't with us. They have gone on. But some of them are with us. And we have one with us tonight. And I am so proud and so honored to be able to introduce him and to be in space with him. Many of you don't need to hear this, right? Many of you already know this story. But for those of you who don't, for our listeners online, I would like for you to take a moment and just listen at the phenomenal life this person I'm going to introduce has lived. Dr. Warren H. Stewart Sr. is a monumental figure in the fight for civil rights. His unwavering dedication has profoundly shaped both the national landscape and the state of Arizona. As a senior pastor of this place, Phoenix's first institutional Baptist church, since 1977, I'm not going to tell you how old I was in 1977, but that's a long time ago. He has seamlessly blended spiritual leadership with tireless activism, embodying the essence of what we call servant leadership. Now, he has many. I've been reading about him for like a week, and he's got many accolades, but his most celebrated achievement, in my view, is his instrumental role in establishing the Martin Luther King Jr. Day as an official state holiday here in the state of Arizona. Yeah. And despite facing formidable opposition, and I do mean formidable, I read that book. I saw what you wrote, and I read those newspaper articles, and I saw what they said about you. They were not kind, but you kept going anyway. Despite facing this opposition, Dr. Stewart organized and led coalitions such as Arizonans for Martin Luther King Jr. State Holiday and Victory Together Incorporated, rallying diverse communities toward a common goal. His relentless efforts culminated in a historic vote on November 3rd, 1992, marking Arizona as the first state to approve the holiday by popular vote. Now, 1992, that was 30-something years ago. You can imagine Arizona 30-something years ago, right, before I moved here, you know, and made it a little bluer, right? You can imagine what he had to face to get this done, to go around the legislature and to get the people of the state of Arizona to see the light. It's not a small thing. This is a testament to his strategic vision and his unwavering commitment to justice. But beyond this landmark victory, Dr. Stewart's influence permeates various facets of social justice. He's been a vocal advocate for immigration reform, affordable housing, healthcare access, and mental health services, addressing the holistic needs of marginalized communities. And in fact, I met Dr. Stewart a couple of years ago on a panel where I thought I was gonna go and save this Black community called Randolph, Arizona, and help them, figure things out and show them the way. It turns out they didn't need me at all. They already had somebody to help them win their fights, and they definitely won that fight. So thank you so much for doing that. His leadership extends to chairing the African American Christian Clergy Coalition and to serving on the board of the National Immigration Reform, reflecting his dedication to collaborative, interfaith efforts for social betterment. An accomplished scholar, Dr. Stewart holds multiple degrees, including a Doctor of Ministry from American Baptist Seminary of the West, and degrees from other places, Union Theological for one, in New York City. His literary contributions, notably Interpreting God's Word in Black Preaching, which got him involved with King at first, according to the book I read, and Victory Together for Martin Luther King Jr., offer profound insights into the intersection of faith and activism. And so not only is he in the church doing the do, in the streets doing his business, his work is being taught in academia here and throughout the country. So very, very worthwhile person. And get this, and I'm just about done and I'll get out of the way. In recognition of his enduring impact, some of you already know this, the city of Phoenix honored Dr. Stewart by naming a street Dr. Warren H. Stewart Sr. Way. Now, they usually wait until you go on to do that, because you might mess up and then the street is, but he's still with us and has his own street, so that ensures that his legacy is woven very good, yeah. Woven into the fabric of our community that he serves so diligently. So Dr. Stewart's life work exemplifies a harmonious blend of spiritual guidance and social advocacy, making him an indelible force in the ongoing pursuit of civil rights and equality. So I hope that you can help me welcome him to his own pulpit as he tells you his story about his connection to the movement.
Thank you, sir. Greetings and welcome to all of you who have gathered here tonight. We greet you to the First Institutional Baptist Church, Phoenix, Arizona, in the name of our loving and liberating Lord. We are so grateful for this partnership with the ASU Humanities Institute under the guidance of Professor Curtis Austin. We thank you for your kind words, but thank you for this partnership that has us here on tonight. And to Professors Tim Tyson and Mary Dobbin Williams, we're grateful for you, and we hope you feel welcome here in the sanctuary of the First Institutional Baptist Church, and all of the rest of you who have gathered here on tonight. We're very grateful to be here. You mentioned tomorrow is the 57th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and I never will forget. I was about a 16-year-old boy, I believe. I was riding in my grandfather's car down one of the main streets in my hometown of Coffeyville, Kansas, and the radio was on, and the bulletin came on and said, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has been assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. And I balled up my fist and I hit the dashboard of my grandfather's car and cracked the dashboard. But then I rolled down the window and I looked for the first black person I could find walking on the sidewalk. And I said, they killed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So that's why this is very, very meaningful to me to have this opportunity. And the other story from my hometown, Coffeyville, Kansas, I don't know how many people here can give this testimony, but as a little boy, I met Mahalia Jackson. She came to our town, Coffeyville, Kansas, to do a concert in the Coffeyville Memorial Auditorium. Seats about 1,700 people, and packed the place out. And we had a member of our congregation, the 12th Street Missionary Baptist Church, who was a nursing home owner, and she invited her to come. And it was 2 or 3 blocks from where we lived, and my grandparents and my mother took me down there, and I was a little boy, and I never forget meeting her. So that's why there are some connecting lines that are very meaningful to me on tonight. And then thank you, Dr. Austin, for inviting me to share a little bit of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday story, which is as relevant today, probably more relevant than it has been with all this going on and our anti-liberty and justice for all context in which we are living, where the socio-political environment is anti-justice, anti-equality, anti-equity, anti-inclusion, anti-diversity. And so I think there that we can learn some things. So thank you very much for this opportunity in the few minutes that I have to share. I call this presentation Lessons Learned, a look at the historic Victory Together campaign for Arizona's Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, 1986 to 1992, to guide us as a divided nation to victory together. And the purpose of this presentation is to explore lessons learned from our historic Martin Luther King Jr. state holiday campaign in Arizona, to determine how those lessons may help us to work together in which we find ourselves as a state and as a union. Let me give a little bit of background of the whole King holiday fight. I received a call on a Friday afternoon at my home, May 16, 1986, from then Governor Bruce Babbitt. He said, the operator call said, the governor would like to speak to you. And I said, okay, I'll speak to him. He said, Warren, he said, I believe that I have precedent for declaring an executive order for a Martin Luther King Jr. state holiday in Arizona based on the fact that when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, then Governor Fannin called a holiday the Friday after the assassination for all the executive branch. And he said, and I want to do it from the pulpit of the First Institutional Baptist Church. I said, are you really sure, Governor, that you can do that? He said, yes, I can do it. And so we quickly called out to the community, and community leaders came, and from this pulpit, Governor Babbitt signed the executive order. I have the original copy over in my office. It framed, signed the original copy of the executive order. But he said something that was very prophetic. He said that you're going to have to fight for this. You're going to have to fight for this. And how prophetic he was that we had to fight for the King holiday, which at that time had been signed into law by one of the most famous modern Republican presidents, Ronald Reagan, and in 1986. And so there was a fight. There was a fight. And there happened to be a 3-way race for governor in the fall of 1986. And because it was a 3-way race, a Republican, a Democrat, and a Democrat who turned independent because he did not like the female Democratic candidate. And so he split the vote. And so Governor Evan Meekum got elected on maybe 40% of the vote or even less than that. And he had campaigned on the promise that he would rescind the illegal executive order signed by Governor Babbitt here in this church. And that, of course, brought national attention upon us. And so when he won, about 18 leaders from around the state, all of our elected black officials, I think we had 1 senator, black senator, 2 members of the House of Representatives, faith leaders from Tucson, from Flagstaff, from here, people from the Jewish community. We met not far from here in the Old Valley Christian Center to try to get him to not keep his promise of rescinding the executive order King holiday when he took office in January of 1987. And I was asked to moderate that meeting, and he was sitting right next to me. And I said, Governor Mecum, thank you for coming. We are here to ask you to consider not rescinding the King holiday in January when you take office and allowing the legislature to try one more time to pass it. And he said to the 18 or so of us who were gathered there, recognized leaders from around the state, mostly African American, I'm not here to debate or discuss the Martin Luther King holiday with you people. Black people don't need a holiday, they need jobs. And it was a short meeting. It was a very short meeting. And after that, we, in the fellowship hall of this church, there was a meeting formed with leaders who supported the federal Martin Luther King holiday to form the Arizonans for a Martin Luther King Jr. state holiday. And they had asked me, could they have it at FIBC, because FIBC is kind of like the mother church for civil rights in Arizona. And I said, okay, but I was kind of frustrated because I was a younger husband and father, had little children at that time, and we have 2 services every Sunday, and after 2 services, I'm pretty much spent. And I didn't want to come back, but I went out to dinner with my family, took them home, came back, and when I walked in the meeting, the leader said, several of the people said, there's our leader right there. So that's how I became the leader of the Martin Luther King. I walked in the meeting late. And the rest is history. And so over the course of the next 6.5 years, we fought for a King holiday that mirrored the federal holiday that had been signed by Ronald Reagan and passed by the Congress. And it was quite a challenge. The reason it was a challenge was because at that time, the African American population in Arizona was about 3.5%, maybe 4%. And most Arizonans perceived the King holiday as a black holiday. And we were asked, why do you black people want a holiday when there's only 3% of you? Why do you black people want a holiday? You're only 3% of our population. And Governor Mecum did rescind the King holiday before it was celebrated on the 3rd Monday in January 1987, and all hell broke loose. Stevie Wonder was on to do a concert in Tucson. And you know, he worked with Mrs. Coretta Scott King to get the passage of the federal holiday. And he called a boycott. He's actually the one who called the boycott on Arizona and asked entertainers, and eventually it spread to organizations who believe in justice, to not come. Don't bring your convention to Arizona. And Arizona, over that course of 6 years, lost approximately $500 million in income because the way Governor Mecum and the state disrespected the life and legacy and ministry of Martin Luther King Jr. Included in that was the 1993 Super Bowl that was supposed to happen here that the NFL took away when it was defeated. So quickly, we pushed it to get it passed in the legislature. Finally, in September 1989, it was passed. But Arizona had this crazy law that if 5% of the people who voted in the last general election didn't like a bill passed by the legislature, they could get a referendum of 5% of those who voted and put it on the ballot. So once we got it passed, signed by the governor, Rose Moffatt at the time, it was overturned by referendum. So we passed another model in January of 1990. That same group, they were Mecumites. They also overturned that. And so in 1990, there were 2 different versions of the King holiday on the ballot. And Very confusing. One replaced King Day for Columbus Day, and the other was to model after the federal holiday, third Monday in January. And the day before the election, one of the Gumble brothers, it wasn't Bryant, it was the one who was in sports. Can't remember his name. Maybe Greg was his name. But he asked the commissioner of the NFL football league, if they don't pass the holiday, are you going to bring the Super Bowl there? And the commissioner said no. And that broke out in news, and Arizonans got very upset. Nobody tells us what to do. And so in November of 1990, both propositions were defeated. Both propositions were defeated. And so Arizona was in a deep funk. It was in a deep funk. And we said, well, obviously the people have told us what they think about Dr. King and how important he was to this nation. And eventually, and so I got a call off the record from a new television news anchor. Said, Pastor, I'm calling you off the record. He said, will you try one more time? I said, no. I said, the people have spoken. They don't want it. Let's move on to something else. They said, but no, Pastor Stewart, will you try one more time? Because people know that you want it not for a Super Bowl, but you want it for the right reasons. And I said, let me pray about it, talk to some advisors. And I did, came back, and we launched Victory Together, which we led the campaign that ultimately made history by passing overwhelmingly a Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, Civil Rights Day, by a vote of the people, November the 3rd, 1992. Can we give some praise for that? So that is the short story, the short version of my 560-some page book that I wrote about what went into the fighting for the King holiday. So let me just try to bring some relevance to it. The context in which we are living, and you already mentioned it, Dr. Austin, in many ways, we are a divided nation. Bitter partisan politics are the order of the day. Civil discussion and debate between opposing sides are not encouraged or prevalent in the public arena like in the past. Local to global conflict permeates our everyday lives that we see instantaneously via media and often in person. Virtually everyone feels a sense of insecurity about our lives and well-being. And that, my brothers and sisters, was when I wrote this a few weeks ago, a lot of things had not happened would have happened today. So how, and I don't want you to answer, we don't have time for you to answer, but I want to raise this question, you answer in your mind. How would you grade the level of division in the United States currently, and why? Levels of division, not divided, a little divided, somewhat divided, half divided, very divided, extremely divided. Well, you answer that question on your own. The next slide is a picture of when we had one of our several marches in downtown Phoenix, which some of them got up to 20,000 people that marched in the middle of January here in Arizona, fighting for the King holiday. That young man in that white coat and that cap is my second son, Matthew Stewart, and he was there with his daddy fighting for that. So Arizona was divided over the King holiday for almost 20 years, from the early 1970s through the early 1990s. Here's how we were divided. Divided as a state, 90% opposed the King holiday in the 1980s because they thought it was a black holiday. We were divided politically, Democrats for, Republicans against. Divided racially, most black Arizonans and other people of color for, and most white Arizonans against. Divided economically, most grassroots people for, and most corporate executives against. Divided religiously, most mainline denominations for, and most conservative denominations against. So in this whole fight, I learned 8 lessons I want to share with you as I almost conclude this presentation. They're in my book, Victory Together from Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday. Lesson number 1 is what I call leadership under fire. And that means that when you are a leader, whether you are pushed out or voluntold like I was, you have to be a leader on fire with passion and purpose, but you will be a leader under fire. I receive all kinds of criticism and threats on my life simply because I was trying to fight for an Arizona paid state holiday for Martin King, just like the nation which had been signed by President Reagan. Lesson number 2, keep focused. Always keep your eyes on the prize. Don't get distracted. There'll be a lot of distractions, but keep your eyes on the prize. Lesson number 3, broaden your base of support. If every black person who could vote had voted for it still would lose. So we had to broaden our base of support. And let me just say this, we went from 90% Arizonans opposed to the King holiday to when it was finally passed and the first celebration, it took a poll, 90% of Arizonans then supported the King holiday. So we moved people. We were able to move people 100 points in our direction. How do we do that? Lesson number 4, educate, enlighten, and inspire. Educate, enlighten, and inspire. Our goal was to teach Martin Luther King Jr., teach the people of Arizona that as George Washington was a significant leader in this nation in the 18th century, as Abraham Lincoln was a significant leader in the 19th century, Martin Luther King was a significant leader for this nation, getting us to practice what we preach in the Constitution and the Pledge of Allegiance in the 20th century. So we tried to show this is not a black holiday. This is an American holiday that represents Americans at our best. Lesson number 5, stick with principles. If you got to have principles on which you stand and believe, and you have to stick with those principles regardless of the temptation to change your principles, to compromise here and there, you have to stick with principles. Lesson number 6, build a consensus to reach goals. That's kind of similar to broaden your base, but consensus means that in the coalition that we were leading and among the leadership of Arizona, we had to get as many people as possible to agree by consensus that we should have the King holiday. And so build a consensus to reach goals. Number 7, don't give up, persevere. Don't give up. There are many times I want to throw in the towel. There are many times that I just want to say, to heck with it, let's move on. But if you believe in something and you know it's right, you know it's just, you know it stands for principles that are eternal and that help people, you press on. And the last lesson is lesson 8, believe that God is with you. I felt as much doing ministry, fighting for the King holiday, as I did preaching the gospel. Because we practice here at FIBC Jesus and justice. We practice Jesus and justice. So Arizonans overwhelmingly voted for Proposition 300, Martin Luther King Jr. Civil Rights Day, Lincoln and Washington President's Day on November 3rd, 1992, the only state in the USA to approve a King holiday by a vote of the people. I told you a statewide poll was taken after the election, and 90% of Arizonans now supported it. The next slide are some of the bumper stickers that we had. The next slide is me and the late Dr. Paul Effinger, an American Baptist pastor, retired, who was the campaign director. We call ourselves Ebony and Ivory. I was the chair of Victory Together. He was the campaign director. And that was the night that we stood with our hands clasped together in the Hyatt Regency downtown and had victory for the state of Arizona. The next picture is when the mother of civil rights, Sister Rosa Parks, came to help us to celebrate, and she spoke from this pulpit. We're very grateful for that. And then let me say this parenthetically, and then I'm almost done, is that when we first started the King holiday, we sent letters to what was called the Phoenix 40. It's now called the Greater Phoenix Leadership, but it was the corporate executives who run the place, who have all the money. Very few of them returned, Dr. Tyson, very few of them returned our calls or answered our letters until the NFL said, we will not bring the Super Bowl to Arizona unless y'all have a King holiday, because 85% of our players are black. Help me, somebody. And so I got a call from the chair of the Super Bowl committee for 1993 and said, Reverend, can we talk to you about the holiday? And so we had a very unhealthy, it wasn't unhealthy. We had a very tenuous relationship because I knew that they wanted a holiday for the football game. But the late Dr. Leon Sullivan, who helped fight apartheid in South Africa, had retired from his church in Philadelphia and had moved here. And he became a mentor of mine. So I went to Dr. Sullivan, Sister Williams, one day at his house, and I said, Dr. Sullivan, I'm having a problem. The campaign's going to require about $2 million. We don't have it, and the Phoenix 40 want to finance it. But I know they don't want it for the right reason. And Dr. Sullivan said, young man, he said, young man, first of all, the corporate executive types need people like you to prick their consciences, because their social justice veneer is very thin. Then he said, take all the money they have to give you, because it's but a drop in the bucket. So my brothers and sisters, as I close, I hope you can take these practical lessons that I've shared with you tonight and certainly apply them to what's going on in these United States of America this very day, April the 3rd, 2025. Peace.
Thank you very much. That was resounding. I really appreciate the work that you did for us. Thank you. Thank you so much. And speaking of thanks, I did thank you earlier and your church body earlier, but I also want to thank my colleagues. You see the Humanities Institute Step and Repeat logo here. And what tends to happen is, some reporter will come and ask, hey, Dr. Austin, what's blah, blah, blah. And then I'll answer the question, and that's what'll show up in the newspaper or on the web. But actually, the people who make the Institute run, in fact, make the university run, are our staff people. And so I want to personally thank Alyssa Arns, Victoria Day, Lindsay Weedy, for helping us pull all of this together. If you got an invitation, it didn't come from me. If you had some food, that didn't come from me. If you're getting an honorarium, that certainly did not come from me. So I just wanted to say that the people who make things happen, we rarely see, but the university and especially the Institute would not work without those people. So can we give those folks a hand? And as I mentioned, I'm the associate director, but my director, Professor Ron Brolio, is here too. Ron, if you'll raise your hand. He's a director of the Humanities Institute. Thank you. So he makes it possible for us to do these kinds of things, and we're just so proud of them for doing that. So I'm pointing up here, but it's no longer there. But you saw a picture of Rosa Parks a few minutes ago. And I just wanted to say a few words about the church and the movement before I bring our speakers up. Rosa Parks, you know her story, she's very famous, but she was actually sitting in church one day when she heard the story of Emmett Till. She was there, her preacher, you might know this guy, I think it was Martin Luther King Jr. there in Montgomery, Alabama, listening to the sermon, and this other guy named T.R.M. Howard came to talk about what had happened in Mississippi, and that turned their life around. Well, she heard the story of what happened to Emmett Till, and we all know Rosa Parks' story now. I mean, we've heard that, oh, she was just tired and didn't want to move. Well, she was probably tired, but not of what you're thinking she was tired of. She was tired of the stuff I can't say because I'm standing here. But that's what she was tired of. And that's what set her on that path. And that's what I meant earlier about the Black church kind of being the launch pad, the headquarters of the movement, because you've probably heard of, for example, of the story of these three guys who were killed in the state of Mississippi during Freedom Summer, Goodman, Cheney, and Swerner. Well, they were killed because the night before, they were in a church trying to get people to register to vote. So the church really central to all of this. I actually study the history of the Black Panther Party. And you might think, well, that's a little bit different from NAACP or SNCC or Congress of Racial Equality, and it is quite different. But actually, the founder of the party, Huey Newton, his father was a preacher, and their first meeting was held in a church. So they wouldn't exist without that space. And certainly, if you haven't, one of the things that made them famous are their free breakfast programs. And their first free breakfast program, guess where it was? In the church. Now, the church mothers had to tell them to stop all that cussing. And if you're gonna carry those guns, you at least need to hide them. But it was in the church nevertheless. And so my point remains that without the Black church, we wouldn't have some of the things that we currently take for granted. And so tonight we're gonna be talking about the impact of Mahalia Jackson's music on the movement. Of course, Jackson was a central figure in the church, and you'll hear about this as the speakers come up. But I want to introduce you to our first speaker, and that is Mary Dobbin Williams. She's a distinguished public educator and performer whose unwavering dedication has been instrumental in preserving and celebrating the legacy of Mahalia Jackson and the Black freedom movement. She has a Bachelor's of Arts in American Studies and a double minor in History and the African American Diaspora from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and also a Master's of Art in Folklore from UNC Chapel Hill. She's got profound understanding of the cultural and historical context that shape Black narratives in this country. She's collaborated with the other person you're gonna meet tonight, Dr. Timothy Tyson at Duke. They have taught a course called The South in Black and White, History, Culture, and Politics in the 20th Century South. This offers students an immersive exploration of the complexities of Southern history. And if you haven't been to the South, it's very complex. It's not exactly what you might imagine if you hadn't been there. I'll say some of my best friends are white, right? And my Black friends hate it when I say that, and so do my white friends. But the South is a complicated place, right? We can talk about that later if you want. And there will be a Q&A afterwards, by the way. Mary Williams' commitment to education extends beyond academia, however. She has delivered powerful performances and lectures at numerous colleges, universities, public schools, and churches, captivating audiences with her deep knowledge and what you'll discover later tonight, her emotive delivery. Notably, Ms. Williams has performed for the United States Congress, probably won't be doing that anytime soon, again, but she did before. She's participated in civil rights symposia in France. She's provided solace through concerts for incarcerated individuals in penitentiaries and county jails. Her altruistic spirit is further evidenced by benefit performances for cancer patients, victims of domestic violence, and individuals in homeless shelters. Her distinctive voice has graced various movie and television soundtracks, and she has showcased her talents in multiple theater productions. Her dedication to preserving the rich musical heritage of the Black community has earned her numerous prestigious honors and awards. Currently, she is co-authoring with Professor Tyson a book entitled Why Mahalia Matters, Mahalia Jackson and the Politics of the Spirit. And so you're gonna hear more about that tonight. This work promises to shed new light on the indelible impact of the Queen of the Gospel on both music and on civil rights. So help me give her a warm welcome. Mary, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet. Actually, so I can sit down, I'm going to introduce Tim at the same time, so you don't have to hear from me anymore. How about that? And I'll be done. So Tim Tyson, who is going to have a dialogue with Mary Williams before she starts singing, is what I can only describe as a towering figure in the study of American civil rights. He has brought profound insights that have reshaped our understanding of racial justice. Professor Tyson is a senior research scholar at Duke University Center for Documentary Studies, and he just continues to show us the way. His 2017 masterpiece, The Blood of Emmett Till, re-examines the tragic 1955 lynching of Emmett Till. He's unearthed new evidence and new perspectives. And I don't know if you heard, this was on NPR, it was on CNN, it was NBC. Actually, it was on Fox too. And what is it? It is, if you've heard the story of Emmett Till, he's accused of whistling at a white woman in Mississippi. That was the accusation. But what it is, Professor Tyson got Carolyn Bryant, the woman who made that accusation, to recant. She said that never happened. Didn't happen. Of course, it was too little, too late. And historians and political scientists and sociologists, probably folks without fancy degrees, had been trying to get her to do that, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years. And he got her to do that. Like, she did that on tape, right? Yeah. That book, The Blood of Emmett Till, won the Robert F. Kennedy Book Award and also was a finalist for the National Book Award. The Los Angeles Times and National Public Radio held it as the best book of 2017. Vann Newkirk of The Atlantic said this about it: "It's a critical book that turns the past into prophecy and demands that we do the one vital thing we aren't often asked to do with history. That is, to learn from it." And I have assigned it to my class many times, and you will learn a lot if you read that book. I actually thought I knew the story of Emmett Till. I grew up about an hour. I'm from Mississippi. I grew up about an hour from where he was killed and had heard that story many times, and I read that book and I realized I didn't know very much about it. And so now I'm helping my students to understand that. But the book he wrote before that, his earlier book, Blood Inside My Name, delves into the 1970 murder of Henry Marrow in Oxford, North Carolina. And in this book, he intertwines personal memoir with historical analysis. And this compelling narrative earned him the Grawemeyer Award in Religion. It was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award and was adapted into a feature film in 2010. And as if that weren't enough, he actually wrote a book before that. This was called Radio Free Dixie, Robert F. Williams and the Roots of Black Power. Now I'll say, this is a little personal thing. I'll say I read this book and really, really enjoyed it. And Tim, this might be a little bit offensive to you, but it's true. It's true for me. And so I gotta say, when I read this book, I thought the person who wrote it was Black. So it was all right with me. And then I found out you weren't Black, and I stopped assigning it. No, I'm just kidding. I kept doing it. But it is such a well-written piece of history that I don't know, I couldn't imagine a white person doing such a good job. And so thank you, Tim, for that. This book sets the foundation for how we understand the Black Power movement. And I'm a Black Power scholar, and I was pretty sure I had it right until this book came out. So I really do appreciate that. And if you're offended, we could deal with it a little bit later. This book actually received the Frederick Jackson Turner Prize and the James A. Raleigh Prize from the Organization of American Historians. And now most of you won't know anything about this organization, but it is the premier organization for historians in the country, and some people argue in the world. And these are some of the best prizes that are given in history. And so just one more indication of how good a scholar he has been. Through his meticulous research and his evocative storytelling, Tim Tyson not only chronicles history, but challenges us to confront its enduring legacies solidifying his role as what I think of as an indispensable voice in the discourse on civil rights and especially on social justice. And so please help me welcome Mary Williams and Tim Tyson to the stage.
I want to thank Curtis Austin, who used to be my friend. Really, some of my best friends are black, you know. He happens to be one of them. For his kind words, and actually, he's been my friend for 25 years now. For the kind words and really for the kinder work that you did to get us here. And we really appreciate it. And Professor Austin's book on the Black Panthers, Up Against the Wall, is the single best book on the Black Panther Party, on that crucial piece of history. And I couldn't recommend a book to you more. Up Against the Wall. I'm looking forward to his next. I'm also grateful to especially Victoria Day, who's been patient with us, and all the other folks at the ASU Humanities Institute for their labors on our behalf. I want to offer a special thanks to, a very special thanks to Reverend Dr. Warren H. Stewart, Sr., very towering civil rights leader. As I told him earlier, I may not be a wise man, but I did see his star from the east. And I'm so honored to meet him, and especially to hear these invaluable lessons for this moment that we're in. I'm afraid his impending retirement is not going to work out. He's anticipating rest, and I would say he can forget that. We will not let him be. I also want to thank my brilliant wife, Perry Morgan, who's with me here tonight, for all she's done. And I met her 50 years ago at Methodist Youth Fellowship, which may suggest to you that my deep roots in the church. My father spent 50 years in United Methodist pulpits and in the movement. My career as a historian really begins when I was 11 in Oxford, North Carolina, where a friend of mine's father and two brothers, when we were 11, committed murder. They killed a young black man in public for basically, allegedly, flirting with a white woman at a store counter. The resonances of this with the Emmett Till case are obvious, but my father had done a lot of work before that, and there were people in our church who were sick of his race politics, and we ended up having to move away. And when you're 11 and you move away 150 miles, that's pretty much, you don't see your friends. And I was a little bit ticked off. And particularly, I came back in the summer, and my friend Ben Averett, who owned a farm there, and I was working with him in the summer, learning. And Ben turned to me on Saturday morning when I first got there, and I was in his truck. And he said, Tim, you know, tomorrow morning Joy will get y'all ready for church, but I don't go to that church anymore. I told them, if you fired Vernon, I ain't never setting foot in this church again. And I said to myself, fire my daddy? And I had to know what happened and why that happened. Because I knew for a fact this murder was committed. This is not a murder mystery. It was butchered like a hog in public. And there was no secret about it. I went back there when I was a freshman in college, and I interviewed the ringleader of the murderers, the father of the two younger men, who was really responsible for the murder. And he told me that N-word committed suicide coming in my store wanting to four-letter word my daughter-in-law, unquote. And I think maybe that day is when I became a historian, because I grew up in the crumbling years of the civil rights movement, in the heyday of the Black Power movement, when school integration had finally come after 17 years from the Supreme Court decision in 1954, had finally come to North Carolina. And we had to move away and move to Wilmington, North Carolina, which turned into a war zone. We had a group called the Rights of White People that met in the street, in the park across the street from my junior high, with their Confederate flags and their military weapons and their trucks and CB radios and their fiery speeches about the evils of integration and the necessity for violence. So it appeared to me that many of the grown-ups I knew were crazy. And I just wondered, how did this all get started? You know, and you pull at that, and then you find yourself, you know, at the bottom of the ocean with millions and millions of dead Africans is where you find yourself. You know, that's how this got started, is the Atlantic slave trade. But anyway, I digress. I do think, my father was a preacher, but he had 5 brothers, and they were all preachers. And their father was a preacher. And his father was a preacher. And his father was a preacher. And his father was a preacher. And it doesn't really run out, it just, my knowledge stops. I don't know really, but at a minimum, in summary, my daddy was a preacher, and my 5 uncles, and my granddaddy, my great-granddaddy, my great-great-granddaddy, my great-great-great-granddaddy were all preachers. I just say this to you as a cautionary tale. You really, before you invite someone into your pulpit, you might want to just do a little background check, because, you know, we could be here for days when you're carrying this kind of genealogy. But I'll try not to burden you too much with that. Now, I met Professor Mary D. Williams during a book tour for my book, Blood Doesn't Sign My Name. And Urban Ministries of Raleigh, North Carolina asked me to do a benefit appearance for them. And they knew how much, they had read the book, and they knew how much I liked gospel music. And they knew Mary, and they knew how powerfully she could sing it. So kind of as a gift to me, my payola was they had her come perform, and she took the songs that I had referenced in my book and wove them into a medley. And then when she started singing, I Don't Feel No Ways Tired, which I did feel some ways tired. She started singing I Don't Feel No Ways Tired, and I began to weep. And I asked her after that was over if she would join me in my work, talking about race and history and doing movement work and trying to talk to people about how to reach across lines of color and class and caste to do the work that needs doing. After several years of community work in faraway places and near, Iowa is what she's laughing about. Yes, I did make her go to Iowa for no money. But mistakes were made, yes. And we learned a lot. Our lives have been different. And they've been different since we've known each other. They were different before that, but they're different since we've known each other because we've been through quite a lot. After several years of doing community work together, we started teaching together at Duke University and North Carolina Central University, and also our classes were open to the whole community. And that was, we were not really just teaching history and culture, though we were certainly doing that. But we were trying to rear up a new generation of movement workers. So after 20 years of teaching together, you would think she wouldn't be making me cry anymore, but her powerful faith and her powerful voice bring me to tears when I hear her quite often. Even when we were teaching together once a week, I had to keep handkerchief handy. Maybe Ms. Williams would be willing to answer these charges and also perhaps talk about how this book on Mahalia Jackson that we've just completed, how that came about.
I want to be ready. I want to be ready, children. I want to be ready to walk in Jerusalem just like John. How many of you know this? Come on and work with me. I want to be ready. Come on. I want to be ready. Oh, Lordy. Come on now. Well, to walk in Jerusalem just like, come on, I want. Come on, let me hear you. This is a church. Oh, I want to be ready. Oh, Lordy, I want to be. Well, to walk in Jerusalem just like, well, I believe it, I believe. Come on, I sure not believe I'm gonna Jerusalem. Do you believe, I sure not believe I'm gonna. Oh, yeah. Oh, I wanna be. Oh, I want. Oh, Lord, I wanna be. Well, to walk in Jerusalem just like John. So Mahalia found me. She found me. I was a teenager and I was at home when we were writing the book. She's always been my favorite. And before the book, when we were in Iowa, I actually did a presentation for some scholars and for museum curators about Mahalia. She's always been my favorite. And so there were some problems going on at home. My dad had bought me an orange Volkswagen. And so I got in the car that day. There were so many things going on in the house, very chaotic. And so I got in my Volkswagen. It was a Sunday morning. And I put the radio on WLLE, which played gospel music for only half of the day. So I drove my car to Cary. Where's Miss? Yes, to Cary. And so when I got there, it started raining, and I pulled over. I really didn't know where I was going. I was just driving. I think I may have been thinking that I was going to run away from home, but I don't know. So I ended up getting there. And so when I pulled over, and I had the radio on, and I just heard, soon will be we've done. Troubles of the world, troubles of this world, Lord, troubles of this world. And then she went on to say, no more weeping and no more wailing, going home to live with God. Something came into that car. Oh, now I know it was the presence of the Lord. But at that time, as a teenager, I didn't know. But it sanctified me in a way and sanctioned me in a way that music saturated my heart to understand that it won't be like this always. Better days are coming. So I turned that car around and I went home. I went home. And so when I Mahalia, this book and the opportunity to write this, to me was exciting. It was thrilling. To work with Tim has always been, again, 20 years that we've been working together. And so this opportunity came on January 17th, 2023. I am not a writer, but that doesn't mean I can't be anointed to be one. Okay? Like Pastor, as you were saying, I walked in late. And there I was the leader. And so we've been working together, and so this opportunity comes, and so it's been this collective. One of the quotes that we write in the book, it says, however far the stream flows, it never forgets its source. And that is a Yoruba proverb. I, like Mahalia, have never forgotten my source. And so when we talk about this history, it connects me to Smithfield, North Carolina, where the sign where my grandparents, when I visited them, said, welcome to KKK country. And my grandmother would walk into the store with me holding my hand, and they treated her with such disrespect. And as a young girl, I didn't understand what was going on. But there was something about Grandma always telling me that you're going to amount to something. Now, my maiden name is Dobbin. And so she would say, make that name mean something. And so they treated her with disdain at times, but yet and still she always taught me what I needed to do, and then my parents as well. And then what she tried to tell me really came clear to me when I got married and had children of my own. 3 sons of a darker hue. But I do want to introduce my 2 sons and my daughter-in-law to be Kia. Would y'all stand, please, and let everybody see y'all? They came all the way to Arizona. Ain't that something? That's all right. That's all right. And so the privilege of wanting them to understand that they're relevant in this world. 3 college graduates, 3 very successful men. Yes. Oh, yeah, come on. That's 3 out of 3. Y'all better come on. Y'all know the story. And so that's why this book is important, because Mahalia never wavered from the gospel. She went on, she never wavered. She didn't straddle. She literally stayed in terms of her relationship with the Lord and kept that motivation to encourage people with the gift that God gave her. And that was her voice. When she left home, she never intended to use the gift to make money or to be famous, but it was God ordained. Okay. You know where we at?
Well, Mary, of course, was deep into Mahalia Jackson, as you can see. And I was a less than successful high school student. I may have left a few months early, but I had been through some things. And when I was a 24-year-old freshman, it's a long story, which I'll spare you, but I remember going running and having how I got over blasted in my ears every day, just a constant companion. And so we both came at this in different ways. How most people see Mahalia Jackson is not at all, really. I mean, people under 60, people who know Mahalia Jackson's name usually know that she was the greatest gospel singer that ever lived, right? But young people the name may not even ring to them. Except Mahalia is kind of unusual, and a lot of times they sort of think, Mahalia. But people don't even know her life. And we both believe that Mahalia's life has important lessons to teach us in these dark hours that we confront. She was the greatest gospel singer of all time, but she was also a Southern black woman of immense faith. And what people don't realize, and to tell you the truth, I had no idea when I agreed to be a part of this. I had no idea that she was a civil rights pioneer. You know, she was in the 1930s. She grew up in New Orleans, bitter poverty. Moved to Chicago when she was 20 and started singing at the Baptist church. But she also started working with a guy named William Dawson and another guy named William Anderson. They were two politicians, local black men running for alderman in Chicago. And she helped build the Dawson Machine. Well, the Dawson Machine was the most powerful black political organization probably in the world, certainly in the United States. You couldn't, and you know, Illinois has got a lot of electoral votes. And Chicago has a lot of folks in it, many of whom you might know are African American. And as Chicago goes, so Illinois goes. So Dawson built this powerful machine. And she was with him every step of the way and became a figure in Chicago of just enormously compelling people. Now, she worked for independent black political power. She not in a divisive way. She just believed that black people needed to have power in order to enter into the partnerships that needed to happen on an equal basis. She worked for black cultural pride and black history. She built strong black community associations, the things that make life worth living in communities. She was always there raising money for those things, but she also knew what Dr. King knew and taught us so well, which was that, you know, power without love is morally bankrupt. You might recognize that from reading the newspaper. We've got a lot of power that is morally bankrupt because there's no love involved. There's no higher purpose. But love is fine. But Dr. King said, love without power is sentimental and anemic. Oh, it feels so terrible. But how do you to act on your love, you have to have power. And when love gets harnessed to power, then it moves toward justice. And that is, in a nutshell, what Mahalia Jackson believed, which is why she believes so much in coalition politics.
And then one thing, too, we have to understand that what Mahalia does is she takes the tradition. She comes from Gumstomp. Her family, they were living as slaves there. She's only 1 year or 2 years, one generation or two generations removed from slavery.
Yeah, they were enslaved on Gumstomp Plantation, which was about 40 miles up the Mississippi River. And then after the fall of after the defeat of the Confederacy, her people stayed on gum stump plantation as sharecroppers, and which wasn't in Louisiana, rural Louisiana, wasn't a lot different than slavery.
That's right.
And
Especially sharecropping.
yeah,
But she takes this from the grandparents. She takes these stories. She takes this whole idea of what they're sharing with her in terms of just like, any of you, think about what your grandparents told you. I know I've talked to my kids, we talked about this. Like, they've got to have this whole conversation about what has happened in the past so that they can understand why things are the way that they are today. But Mahalia takes that tradition. She takes all of that, and it's inside of her. And so the songs, just like with my grandmother passing songs down to me, didn't my Lord deliver Daniel, deliver Daniel, deliver Daniel. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell all Pharaohs to let my people go. She understood. Thank you. She understands this, and so she's gaining all this information, and the beauty of what she does in all that southernness is that she takes it all with her. She takes it all with her, and then she takes that love, she takes that faith, she takes that, but she takes her voice, and it's that consciousness. Everything that you were talking about, Pastor, you're piercing the consciousness of people. You're awakening them to have an understanding of what the problem is and what we've got to do about it. You're awakening them internally. It is not external. This is internal work. This is inside. And so what she does with her voice, and I think that's one of the principles of our class, and two that we talk about, you're getting them audio through the hearing, through vision, mentally. This stuff is washing through them. So all these ideals that she is using politically, she wants to get people to understand that the Constitution applies to all of us. And so she gets that from this understanding of what her ancestors, again, two generations removed, what they were trying to go toward. And so she does this, and then she goes to Chicago.
yes. She comes out of the moral vision of the black church in slavery.
Oh, yes.
If you want to know where Dr. King's vision comes out of, it's really out of the moral vision of the black church in slavery, which had, not surprisingly, born in the bottom of a boat, this faith, and attested that you cannot turn a person into a thing.
That's right.
Right? And that we're all here on the same basis, all children of God, before the throne of a loving God. So an oppositional faith to the evil that ruled that society. And that is what and the African religious expressions that she grew up with, which, spirit possession in the African context, but, getting the Holy Ghost,
Oh, yeah.
Was essential, a direct connection with the divine. Yeah. And this is what she comes up out of. And
this is a tremendous approach because, again, it's just like, this is, church. And so I know one of the songs that I remember that they would sing because they wanted to get everybody on the same page. Oh, I wish somebody's soul would catch on fire, catch on fire, catch on fire. I wish somebody's soul catch on fire and burn with the Holy Ghost.
oh, yes. In New Orleans, she was steeped in the spirituals. but also in the blues. Her first and her idol singer was Bessie Smith, the queen of the blues. Also that second line the funeral march in New Orleans, which it's a funeral march, it's a religious expression, but it's party music too, you know. And she had she grew up in the Baptist church, which was expressive in that context quite a bit, but next door to her house, there was a sanctified church. And she grew up inhaling that, you know, and that's kind of where her musical vision comes from.
Yeah, so what she does is she takes this, and as she goes, in terms of these different influences, she's taking all this with her. And she gets to Chicago, and there's this, it's strange. It's strange. Because even we write about this, her aunt is there with her. She gets off the train, and the aunt hails a cab. She's telling a white person what to do. So it's just such a challenge. Then she goes to the church. They're working. She's a laundress, and she's doing the best she can. She's doing what she thought that would be all that she would be doing. Because that's all she had seen. Her aunts and family as domestics. So her ambition was, I'm going to have good work ethic. I'm going to do what I got to do. And that was it. And so then she goes to the church in Chicago. So now we're in a situation where she would just sing, right? At home. I'm on my way to Canaan land. I'm on my way to Canaan land. She might just stand up and start singing that. But now we're in Chicago.
Yeah.
And the Baptists are a little bit more sophisticated. Not this church.
It was the years of the new Negro movement.
That's right.
And there was a sensibility among black people, many black people, kind of starchy black people, who had been in Chicago a while, that we needed to learn, you know, to articulate, and we can be as culturally refined as anybody. And they weren't too keen on the spirituals or anything that reminded people of slavery.
That's right.
You know.
That's right. Because they wanted the new image. And they wanted to destroy this image of how they were thought of. And they felt that the spirituals were something that connected them to that imagery. Right. And so they were opposed to that. So they sent them away from there, didn't they? They just told her to leave.
Some did. But there were the storefront churches, which really were they were the sanctified churches, and they were more recent immigrants to Chicago. You know, and to them, Mahalia's style came with like a fresh green breeze from back home. And so she and then the way she packed people in, then the more hoity-toity black Baptist churches decided maybe she could come after all. But
so now we're here.
So, as I said, she became part of the rise of this African-American political power. The Great Migration reconfigured the political map in America. We had a couple of million black Southerners who moved from can't vote to can vote. And where were the places they moved? Harlem, Philadelphia, the Chicago, Cleveland, all these urban cities where they became a powerful electoral force. And she was part of that building up in Chicago. She sang for Dawson's Machine. She sang for President Franklin Delano Roosevelt when he ran for president, 1932 and 36 and 40. But in 48, President Truman now, the Democratic Party in the 40s, it's the solid South, the Dixiecrats, it's the white conservative South, and black people there cannot vote. and hardcore white supremacy. And then you've got the North where the black vote is substantial. And after it reaches a certain point, then President Truman figured out that was going to be what carried the election. So he campaigned in the black community in 1948. There were 16 different states outside the South where the new black vote was more than the margin of defeat or victory. So the black vote was not just carrying Chicago and Illinois, it was carrying the country. And so President Truman put a civil rights plank in his platform, which had the Dixiecrats all walk out. But and Mahalia was at his side.
Yes.
So this was her working out that love, power, and justice thing by building up political power inside the Democratic Party. Not always with people who agreed with what her vision was, but working with power where it was. In
the church too, we had so much more organized, because now you have choirs, you have gospel music that now where she was singing, spirituals, that was her thing. Oh my God, she did so beautifully. And so the choirs now are more professional. They're singing some traditional songs. I think Dorsey was more, kind of made it innovative, bringing in the blues or the stylistic format. I won't say it's the blues in the church house, but
my favorite blues singer here is.
Okay, yeah. And so it was sung by the church congregational members that were in uniform. It was just totally different, the whole atmosphere in terms of the church. But it was where people gathered. It was no different from the Bush Harbor. That little Bush Harbor, which was this church that had invisible walls during slavery. They take this whole idea of passing information, just as the enslaved did in the Bush Harbor. They do it in the church. The information is disseminated. So Mahalia is really sitting there helping and supporting different candidates and lending her voice to support them. What does this do? This is building community. She's using what she has and applying it to what she needs. Okay.
Now in 1947, actually she was getting fired by Apollo Records. The executive told his junior to go cancel her contract. The junior said, "We've got a recording session, on the books. Could we just do that and see what happens?" She recorded a song called "Move On Up a Little Higher." Now, "Move On Up a Little Higher" sold 8 million copies, okay? In those days, a gospel record that sold 100,000 copies was a landmark. 8 million copies. It lifted her up a lot higher. And it paved the way for her to become, for a whole stack of million-selling gospel albums, and moved into with white listeners.
That's right.
Because she didn't sell 8 million records just to black folk. And now, then she went on Ed Sullivan.
She went on the Ed Sullivan show. And so I had an opportunity as we get ready to close it. You see the sign?
No, I didn't see it.
Show him again. Show him again, girls.
Okay, we're gonna have to do a little editing.
I know. So I interviewed Miss Ford. Miss Ford, who lives there now. And so when I interviewed her, she was explaining to me how that went. How many of you remember the Ed Sullivan show? Okay. So it was like the big deal, right? All the black homes, and y'all raise your hand. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? So Miss Ford was saying, if you didn't be quiet during the Ed Sullivan show, you could get a shoe. Anything could happen. Anything was apt to happen. So Miss Ford was talking about the fact that the joy it was that when Mahalia was on that show, how it changed the entire community. How that just being on that show made such an impact. And so they were so proud of her, but it was so impactful because whatever, and Miss Ford was so, I don't know, she's beautifully stated how it was, is that really what Mahalia was doing was making such a difference, and that they knew it and they were willing to support it. If she supported it, they supported it. And so that's how she was just building community through just her family, through on all levels.
Yes.
And so now, where you going?
I'm just going to rattle through a couple of things. Just going to rattle through a couple of things. In 1952, she sang in Mississippi, in Mound Bayou, for the Regional Council on Negro Leadership before 7,000 Black Mississippians at a voting rights symposium. Voting Rights Symposium, 1952. I know you thought that it was all those white college kids that came down there and saved the poor, benighted Black people of Mississippi, but no. Mississippi was on the move. Even before people knew there was a civil rights movement, she was active in it. She sang in Montgomery in 1956. The room she had been sleeping in was dynamited 2 nights after she left. The Montgomery bus boycott, she sang at John F. Kennedy's inaugural gala. She was good friends or good partners with Richard Daley, the mayor of Chicago, not exactly a civil rights activist, and got him to let her use Chicago's municipal facilities to raise hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for the civil rights movement, for the freedom rides, for the campaign in Birmingham.
The walking people.
Yeah. She sang at the March on Washington to open for Dr. King's speech. And there's she had heard Dr. King speak in Detroit a few weeks earlier. And he did this riff, he was like a jazz musician. He would riff things together, and he had this story. This whole I Have a Dream sequence was done spontaneously in Detroit. And then but on the text that they gave out on the day of the March on Washington, it did not appear. There was no I Have a Dream in that speech. And she felt that his speech was going a little flat as he was moving to the end. And she said, "Tell him about the dream, Martin. Tell him about the dream." And he pushed his notes aside and let fly and spoke those words not just to the country, but to the world historical, moral imagination. So when all through the movement years, and she sang at the Selma March. And so on, and almost all the way through. But through these years, Dr. King was prone to depression, deep depression, and of course was under so much pressure. And Mahalia was there for him. King's attorney, Clarence Jones, said later that she gave what he called telephone gospel therapy. He would call her on the telephone, and he'd say, "Mahalia, please sing to me. I'm having a rough day today." And she would sing, and he would close his eyes and listen. And in some cases, tears would run down his face. And he would say, "Mahalia, you're giving me the Lord's voice this morning." Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me to stand. Lord, I'm tired, and I'm weak. I am like her sense of God's will for her life, like her matchless musical gifts, her love for all God's children, her vision for Black equality and interracial democracy, which would be a good idea. All this grew out of her powerful connection with God and her love for his people.
Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. If you will, Lord, take my hand. Precious Lord, and lead me on when my way grows drear. Precious Lord, linger near when my life is almost gone. At the river, Lord, I stand, guide my feet. Would you hold my hand? If you will, Lord. If you will, Lord. If you will, Lord. Take my hand. Precious Lord, and lead me home. Real, Jesus is real to me. Oh, yeah, he gives me the victory. Y'all sing with me, come on. Whoa, so many people doubt him, but I can't live without him.
That is why I love him so. He's so real to me.
In the morning, he's real. Oh, Jesus is real to me. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. He gives me the victory. Oh, so many people doubt him, but I can't live without him. That is why I love him so. He's so real to me. Take me to the wall. Come on, let's have some church. Come on, sing it. Take me to the. I need y'all to sing a little bit louder. Thank you. I'm sorry. Water to God. I am thine, O Lord. I have heard thy voice, and it told of his love to me. But I long to rise in the arms of faith and be closer drawn to thee. Draw me nearer, blessed Lord, to the cross where thou hast died. Oh, draw me nearer, blessed Lord, to thy precious, one more time, Miss Brenda, to thy precious, to thy precious, one more time, to thy precious bleeding Son. If I can help somebody as I travel along, if I can help somebody with a word of a song, if I can help somebody, Lord, as I travel along, then my living, then my living, what about you? Then my living, then my living shall not be in vain. He lies a rock, shout, shout. He lies a rock coming up, Lord. He lies a rock, shout, shout. He lies a rock coming up, Lord. Come on, clap with me. He lies a rock, shout, shout, shout. He lies a rock coming up, Lord. He lies a rock, shout, shout, shout. He lies for me. Hallelujah, Elijah Rock. Shout, shout, shout. Elijah Rock coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock. Shout, shout, shout. Elijah Rock coming up, Lord. Just a closer walk with thee, granted Jesus, this is my plea. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. In my closing, I do appreciate being here. I thank you all so much. Curtis, I appreciate you so very much for having me, for having us. I want to leave this song with you, the last one. This is my signature. It's one of the songs that I love so dearly. I usually, at the end of a concert, sing this song because of what it means to me. Why should I feel discouraged? Y'all gonna let me sing it like I want to? Why should the dark shadows come? Why does my heart feel lonely and long for heaven and hope? When Jesus is my portion, a constant friend is He. His own the sparrow. And I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy. Oh, I sing because He set me free. Oh, His eye, Lord, the sparrow. And I know. See, can't nobody tell me what I know. I know. It gets dark sometimes. I've had some rough battles. I know diagnosed with cancer not that long ago, and now I have a clean bill of health. I know He will change.
So thank you so much, Mary. Thank you so much to Tim. We really learned a lot tonight. We do have a few minutes for questions. If anybody has any questions that you'd like to ask our speakers, they got through the. Okay. Is that a question or a request? That's a. Okay. Okay, we'll get to that. You will get that. Don't leave. Is there another question? Is that another request too? Okay. All right. Okay, that was a good one. Comment.
My question is, who were some of the people you interviewed as you were writing this book? Family, friends?
The truth is, Mahalia didn't have much family, and none of them are living. So that was on the. We did speak to some folks. I mean, Mary.
They lived in the, what was it? It was they changed the name to, what is it now? Paradise?
Black Pearl.
Black Pearl. They changed the name of the community so there are a lot of people there, but of course, a lot of them that have passed on. And again, which the emphasis of the book in terms of, people remembering Mahalia. And so I interviewed Miss Ford and some of her, her grandmother and Mahalia were actually friends. And so she remembered quite a bit. So I have a very long interview with her. But other than that, we did a lot of research.
Yeah.
A lot of newspaper articles that were very concise. And of course, finding that information and then pulling it all together and then trimming it down.
I found a clipping from a place in Kansas called Coffeeville. Seemed like the critic thought she'd done pretty well.
Okay.
I am from Waterloo, Iowa. And so I'm wanting to know what was the big disaster?
Well,
About the coffee shop. No, when we went to the radio station.
oh, there was the radio station. There was a little problem.
There wasn't many of me there. And I don't mean women. I'm my color.
And then
But that happens a lot traveling with him.
the radio guy who hosted the radio program decided that I was going to talk and that Mary wasn't going to be on the program. And I decided that me and Mary were going to go eat lunch. And there wasn't going to be he was going to talk on the program.
Alone.
Alone. And then he kept on only wanting to talk to me. So I said, you think, is she a potted plant or something? I mean, you do. So anyway.
Yeah, but it worked out really well. The symposium was perfect. It
The
was
sympo-
really good. I did a choir. I actually worked with a choir there. So we started out with like 10 people, but after they kept hearing us, students from outside hearing us rehearse literally would come in and put their book bags down and say, hey, can we join? So we had started out with 3 or 4 risers of students. And when it ended up, we had students all on the floor, but they were singing the spirituals, so they got an opportunity to have that experience, and it worked out really well. Had an opportunity to do a talk with, again, some curators and things of that nature. And so people, and Pastor, I'm sure you understand this, people will tell you, oh, that was good, oh, that was great, oh, and then you ask them, they don't even remember. Don't even remember. And so that's always a thing with me. I want people to remember. It's very important that to me that they remember. And so what was really good that spoke to me was the curator from Chicago. Later on, a month or so later, sent me this most beautiful note, and she sent me 2 black and white photos of Mahalia. One, Mahalia was sitting in her home at the piano, and then this other one, she was in the recording studio. And she said, I just wanted to let you know that what you said meant something. It was of great value. And so that was probably that was very rewarding because I got those photos that I had framed in my house.
She gave me a hard time about the weather.
I did, because it was cold.
And
Like I had to do yesterday, I had to go buy a coat in Sedona with the snow. But anyway, go ahead, that's another story.
I remember Mahalia Jackson playing the movie Imitation of Life.
Yes, sir.
And I remember that movie so well, it made me cry because there's racial difference.
I know, but you know what? Her voice, even through television, is it not the most captivating thing you ever heard? She has so much power. Yeah. And when we've been doing the research, we've been, looking at videos and different things. I love the fact that she literally is having this personal conversation between her and the Lord. It don't even matter about the folk out in the audience. And what's happening is they're partaking in this wonderful experience. So if you watch videos and things of hers, she's looking up. Most of the time, she's always looking up. And she's got her hands folded or clasped. And so it's just a personal thing. And that's why not one song is ever the same. She may sing the same song, but it never comes out the same because she's so tied to it inside of herself and what she's wanting to please the Lord. And they're just having this one-on-one thing going on between them. And the audience just comes along. That's the beauty of it, though, because it crossed denominational lines. And even during the time when there were segregated seating, whites came, everybody came because they wanted to hear Mahalia.
Now, one more.
About the fact that she died relatively young.
Very young.
Very young.
Yes.
Well, she had sarcoidosis. How did I say that? Yeah. You had this. Yeah.
Sarcoidosis.
One more question. I remember that I was reading about the singer Lita Franklin. She wanted to play a role model. She copied her ways like Mahalia Jackson because she wanted to sing just like her.
Yes. Yeah. One of the research books that we use for our research, I had no idea that Mahalia had spent so much time with Aretha. I had no idea.
From a young age.
At a very young age.
C.L. Franklin was her father, who was one of the most prominent ministers in the history of the country, really. But he split up with his wife, and he had these children living at home, and Mahalia spent a lot of time there in the kitchen, stirring up pots of collards and red beans and rice, and teaching cooking as well as singing, and being a comfort to Aretha.
So much so that when Mahalia died, she sang at her funeral. But in learning about that, it puts me all the way back to when we talk about that southernness. When I tell you Mahalia was just southern down to the bone. I mean, I'm a Southern belle. I am. But Mahalia was so, and so that way of doing things. Southerners, we got a way. We got a way about us. I mean, come on. Who's from the South? Yeah, we got a way. We do. And food is a big part of it. Ask my sons. Okay, but anyway. So, but what she does is she just nurtures, and all that southernness, just oozes. And so she takes Aretha at a time when her mother, she left. I mean, she literally, not death took her, but she left. And the children
then died.
Yeah.
She left and then died not long.
Well, she died
2 years later.
after. Yeah, a few years later.
Yeah.
But she only took one son with her when she left.
That's right.
So left all the other children there with C.L. Franklin. So Mahalia was coming in, checking on the children, cooking meals, and Aretha is like, what's happening? You're like growing her up. Because can you imagine what went on in that kitchen? I know what went on with me and my grandma in that kitchen. She was telling, don't whistle. No woman need to be whistling. Things that I will always remember. So those things that she poured, and we can tell it because how Aretha presented herself. You can tell that there was, that there was somebody keeping her, and that was through that. So back to the sickness. She died at 60.
She died at 60 in 1972. It took a long time, and then she died rather quickly.
And her desire, we talk about the marriages because she married one of her husbands twice. Yes. Uh-huh. So, okay. But in doing so, we do know that how important, and we see that thread all throughout, the importance of family and the importance of keeping people together. We see that all throughout, and we really try to relate to that. And then she looked at the world as her family in terms of community and what she was doing. And even the young lady, when she sang America the Beautiful.
Oh, that was just...
Yeah, and the young lady came to her and wanted to know why, because it was not like, it's not our country. But Mahalia was so poised in her response and letting her know that it is. And the work that she was continuing to do is still about making us a united people. And that the Constitution was applied not to just, not just for one group or two groups, but for everyone.
So first, can I say that I enjoyed the beautiful blend of your artistry and your historical contrast of both of your styles. So when did the two of you know that you had something special? And how was that concept received by the university when you asked to teach in this manner?
We knew we had something special. I knew we had something special when we met.
He did.
We had not spoken a word to each other, and I was over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ha! Yeah.
Speechless.
Let's see. AJ's not here. Justin was there, though. My son, Justin, he was there the first time Tim and I met. And so Justin, I'm getting ready to tell on you. So Justin didn't really like school that much. But now he's going to school every 5 minutes for something. He's a veteran and a diesel mechanic, so he's always learning. But he's never been one that was so excited about educational stuff. But he really enjoyed that day. So Tim wrote his book. When he signed my book, I had the book because I read the book, and then I did a medley. And so we were leaving, and then Tim, no, don't leave now. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. So he writes his number in the book. Now, I sing a lot of places, and my children, one thing that, Mom, you need to be on Ritalin. And then another, I can sing to trees. I love to sing. I love it. And so with that being said, it didn't have to be a grandiose audience for anybody to invite me to sing anywhere. It just doesn't matter to me. And so when we were there, but people are always saying they like it, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So when he said, I want to call you, here's my number, you call me. And I thought, I ain't calling him. Because, So the person that convinced me was Justin. Justin, we were leaving and everything. Tim had said, I'll call you next week. I wrote my number down. He said, well, I'll give you a call. But then he said, but Tuesday, I'll be in Oxford. which is where everything happened, the murder and everything. And so I think, was that your first time back at Oxford with the book?
Second, really.
Second, okay.
But it was at the first.
Yeah, it was at the beginning of everything.
It was at the beginning of everything,
right.
for sure.
So Justin looks at me and he says, Mama, we need to go to that. And I'm like, what? And he was like, we need to go to that on Tuesday. And I'm like, well, you got school. Oh, no, I'm going to be fine. We're going to be fine, but we need to go to that. And so he was the one that literally convinced me to drive to Oxford at night. How many miles? To go. And so then when we got there, and I met everybody. I met Perry the first night, but I met Hope and the children, everybody. And then that was kind of a weird night, as far as that lady that was up there. And so
this woman was actually singing.
She was singing.
And then she stopped and started telling a long story about how Satan had attacked her car.
Yep.
And it went, just for 15 or 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Place was packed, wall to wall.
Crazy as a bed bug. I'm not saying.
Yeah.
She just is not right. And,
So,
and Mary's eye and mine connected while she was talking.
And I'm in the crowd. I mean, literally, I'm just sitting in the audience. So Justin's hunching me on one side, Mama, it's something wrong. And then my other son, Adrian's like, Mom, what in the world? I was like, I don't know the lady. I just don't know her.
I didn't know her either.
So, but it was kind of bad because it was crowded and the families were there, like the Till family. I mean, it was a major event. And so she went left, and I don't know how far she went. But I've never seen her again. And so we've been working together ever since. And so then we were traveling with the book, and then the course came up. And so at that time, and just a little piece of this, at the time, I only had a high school diploma. And so I was hired as an adjunct professor to work at Duke. But since then, I've gotten my degrees because you need that paper. Any young people in here? Make sure you get your ticket.
I'd say it went well beyond a ticket.
Yeah.
She did seem to pick up a few things. She's now, college faculty.
Yeah, so.
It's not enough to waive the ticket.
Yeah.
She's a great teacher.
Thank you. Any other? Oh.
It was just a comment. I know for me, the song, when you sang Precious Lord, it brought tears to me because I thought about my life, what I've been through, all that, and how, like you said, it's not going to last forever. You got to know that. And so that really, thank you for that. That touched me.
Thank you.
And then the second thing is, my aunt, and Pastor knows I talk about her all the time. She's 91, and I talk to her every day. She's my mom and my aunt, because my mom passed, and she's my mother's older sister. When I told her I was coming to this, she said, oh my goodness, I remember I met Mahalia. I think she said she was about 20. And she said, me and my girlfriend went with our pillbox hats and our gloves, and we were all dressed to the nine, and they went to a church to hear her sing, and then she met her. So I'm just glad to be able to bring this back to her and tell her, what I experienced, because she loves to talk about history. So
thank you.
And thank you.
Okay, I just want to say thank you both for such a beautiful body of work. This was amazing. Your voice, I had goosebumps because I felt like I was at my grandmother's side. And in my family, Precious Lord is sang at every funeral. And you just took me straight through it. And those are the songs I grew up hearing. But I also want to say, and hopefully all you Win with Black women are watching online, I am the state lead for Win with Black women. And what you're doing in this piece of work aligns so closely to our principles that we know that Black women and in the church, we move politics, we make things happen. We just saw it. It may not have gone the way we wanted to go, but we win with Black women. And I also want to know, what can we do to get you to come back? What do we have to do?
I'll talk with you after the meeting. And Pastor, thanks for allowing us to be in your sanctuary. He was singing with me. Yes, thank you. Y'all give him a hand. Gonna move on up a little higher. Meet my friends and loved ones. Move on up a little higher. Gonna meet with old man Daniel. Gonna move on up a little higher and meet my friends and loved ones.
May we stand on our feet. Let's give them another hand as well as humanity. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Join me in prayer. God, we thank you for the ministry of music. We thank you for Mahalia Jackson and why she matters even today. And even hearing the history of Mahalia, hearing this dialogue between these two authors who have written about her life, and then hearing the melodious voice of Sister Williams, we leave here encouraged. We leave here inspired. We leave here persevering that we can make it no matter what is being said from the highest places in this land. We've heard enough tonight to know that we have made it, we are making it, and we will make it. And so I ask thy anointing upon this man and this woman as they have teamed together. I thank you for Dr. Curtis. I thank you for the ASU Humanities and all of those who have been involved in making this night happen. And even for this congregation that continues to be a beacon of hope, the hope of the city from the city's center. Bless us as we come, bless us as we go. In the matchless name of Jesus Christ. And all the people said together, amen. And there are CDs of our guest singer that you need to purchase. And they are in the lower lobby. Please do that. Amen, amen. God bless you. Thank you.